Just I'll instill them in her.
You and your stupid
Corrupted in one way. She's a righteous one.
There's something up.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Genie, Make-A-Wish is a South Korean television series released in 2025, blending the genres of fantasy, romance, and comedy in a way that captivates audiences from the first scene. The premise is deceptively simple but unfolds into a deeply layered story that explores human nature, morality, and the delicate interplay between desire and consequence. The story revolves around Iblis, a centuries-old genie whose personality is as mischievous as it is sardonic. Iblis has been imprisoned for a millennium due to his refusal to coexist peacefully with humans, his defiance rooted in both pride and a disdain for mortal folly. He is bound by an agreement with a higher power, a test of humanity's worthiness, which demands that he grant 3 wishes to mortals, but each wish comes with a potential for corruption. His challenge is not only to fulfill the wishes but to navigate the moral complexities of human desire, knowing that each corrupted wish contributes to the moral erosion of the world around him. The stakes are immense. If he ever encounters a human whose wish is truly selfless, he faces obliteration, a fate worse than any punishment he has endured in his long life. This setup immediately establishes tension and intrigue, laying the groundwork for both philosophical exploration and dramatic engagement. The story begins in modern-day Seoul, where Ki Ka-young, a woman whose upbringing and life experiences have left her devoid of conventional human emotions, accidentally awakens Iblis from his centuries-long imprisonment. She discovers the ancient lamp under circumstances that seem mundane but are charged with cosmic significance, and in doing so, she unwittingly binds herself to the genie. The contrast between Ka-young and Iblis is striking. Where she is calm, measured, and emotionally detached, Iblis is impulsive, sardonic, and prone to indulgent whims. The initial interaction between the two characters establishes a tension-filled dynamic that drives the narrative forward. Ka-young, with her lack of emotional complexity, becomes a test case for Iblis's understanding of humanity, while Iblis becomes a catalyst for Ka-young's eventual self-discovery. Their relationship is more than a simple master and genie trope. It is an intricate psychological interplay that examines the nature of desire, the consequences of choices, and the transformative power of empathy and love. From the beginning, the series uses humor and fantastical elements to engage the audience, but beneath this layer lies a profound philosophical inquiry. Each wish that Ka-young makes, and later, those of secondary characters, serves as a lens to explore human motivations, the potential for selfishness, and the rare instances of genuine altruism. The narrative takes care to explore the consequences of these wishes, not in a didactic manner, but as unfolding scenarios that reveal character depth, ethical dilemmas, and the ripple effects of human actions on society at large. Iblis, in his centuries of observation and magical power, represents both the cynicism born from experience and the curiosity that persists despite disillusionment. His evolving understanding of human emotion and morality forms the backbone of the series' thematic exploration. Ka-young's journey is equally compelling. Initially, her lack of emotion renders her indifferent to both the magical world she has entered and the human interactions she witnesses. However, her engagement with Iblis and the consequences of her wishes gradually awaken latent empathy and curiosity, illustrating how even those who feel incapable of emotion can be influenced by experiences that challenge their perceptions. The narrative carefully develops her character, showing that emotional awakening is not instantaneous but rather a gradual process marked by subtle realizations, moral reckonings, and intimate encounters with the consequences of her own desires. Her evolving relationship with Iblis serves as both plot device and philosophical exploration, highlighting the interplay between guidance, temptation, and personal growth. The supporting characters enrich the storyline further. Iblis's assistant, Saad, who takes the form of a black jaguar, adds layers of intrigue, humor, and loyalty to the narrative. The genie's brother, Ryu Soo-hyun, also known as Azrael, functions as a counterpoint to Iblis, embodying the consequences of choices made in isolation and the moral tension between duty and desire. Ka-young's grandmother, who undergoes a transformation as a result of a wish, introduces a generational perspective, emphasizing how human desires and mistakes echo through time and affect those around them. The interplay among these characters provides a multifaceted view of the world the series constructs, showing that every choice carries weight and every action has reverberations that extend beyond the immediate moment. Production-wise, Genie, Make a Wish is a meticulous undertaking. The series is directed by Ahn Gil-ho, with Kim Un-suk serving as the writer. Their collaboration ensures a balance between visual storytelling, character development, and thematic depth. The production spans multiple international locations, including significant sequences filmed in Dubai, which provide a visually striking backdrop that contrasts with the familiar urban landscapes of Seoul. This juxtaposition of setting reinforces the fantastical elements of the narrative while grounding the characters' emotional journeys in relatable human environments. The cinematography, set design, and special effects work in tandem to create a seamless blend of realism and fantasy, enhancing the audience's immersion in the story. The series was officially announced in 2023 by Hwa and Dam Pictures, with Netflix acquiring global distribution rights. Casting choices, particularly the reunion of Kim Woo-bin and Bae Suzy, added significant anticipation among audiences familiar with their previous work. The announcement and promotional campaigns emphasized the unique combination of fantasy, romance, and ethical inquiry, positioning the series as both an entertainment product and a narrative exploration of human nature. The trailers released prior to the premiere provided glimpses of the series' humor, drama, and visual spectacle, generating early excitement while preserving the narrative's mystery and complexity. The structure of the series allows for a careful pacing of character development, plot twists, and thematic exploration. Each episode, approximately 60 minutes in length, introduces new challenges, moral dilemmas, and character interactions that build upon the previous events. This episodic structure supports sustained engagement, allowing the audience to reflect on the consequences of each wish and the evolving dynamics between characters. The writing balances humor with philosophical inquiry, ensuring that the series remains both entertaining and intellectually engaging. By the midpoint of the series, viewers are deeply invested in both Iblis's and Ka-young's personal journeys, as well as the broader questions of morality, love, and human potential that the narrative raises. As the series progresses, the intricacies of the wishes granted by Iblis become increasingly complex, reflecting not only the desires of the characters but also the unintended consequences that arise from them. Each wish functions as a narrative device to explore the depth of human motivation, the often blurred line between selfishness and altruism, and the unpredictable ways in which actions can reverberate through the lives of others. Early in the series, Ka-young's first wish is emblematic of her initial detachment from emotion and the world around her. She desires something seemingly trivial, yet the result of this wish unleashes consequences that extend beyond her immediate environment, illustrating a central theme: every action, no matter how small or innocent it may appear, has a ripple effect. Iblis, while initially amused by the unfolding chaos, begins to recognize patterns in human behavior that challenge his long-held cynicism about mortality. These patterns, while subtle, serve as seeds for his eventual transformation, as the centuries of isolation and observation he has endured are suddenly confronted with lived examples of human complexity, ingenuity, and resilience. Ka-young's second wish introduces a more emotionally charged conflict. Unlike the first, this wish is tied directly to her subconscious longings and unacknowledged desires. The narrative carefully portrays the internal tension within Ka-young, illustrating that even a person who believes themselves devoid of emotion can harbor deeply rooted motivations and unrecognized needs. This wish, unlike the first, has more immediate and personal consequences, forcing Ka-young to engage with the emotions of others and to confront the ethical and emotional implications of her decisions. Iblis, observing her reaction and guiding the unfolding events, begins to develop a nuanced understanding of empathy. The dynamic between Ka-young and Iblis shifts from a simple transactional relationship to a partnership characterized by mutual challenge, subtle mentorship, and the slow, tentative emergence of trust. The introduction of secondary characters adds additional layers of conflict and moral complexity. Lee Mi-ju, Ka-young's grandmother, becomes central to a subplot involving rejuvenation and second chances. After a wish unexpectedly restores her youth, she must navigate the challenges of a new life while confronting past regrets and generational differences. Her storyline intertwines with Ka-young's journey, highlighting the themes of legacy, familial bonds, and the enduring impact of choices across time. Similarly, Ryu Soo-hyun, Iblis's brother, emerges as a complex antagonist whose own desires and motivations reflect both rivalry and unresolved familial tension. Azrael, as he is known, represents an alternative path for Iblis, a cautionary figure whose choices serve to illuminate the potential consequences of detachment, arrogance, and untempered ambition. As the series progresses, the narrative delves deeply into the moral ambiguities of wish fulfillment. Iblis must navigate the delicate balance between granting desires and mitigating unintended harm. The story carefully examines how each wish, though granted with precision and power, can manifest outcomes unforeseen by the wisher. This narrative device allows the series to explore ethical questions that resonate universally. What does it mean to truly understand another person's desires? How do intentions and outcomes intersect in ways that challenge conventional notions of right and wrong? Iblis's centuries of knowledge, while vast, are tested in ways that force him to confront his own biases, assumptions, and moral frameworks. These challenges are rendered in richly detailed scenarios that combine humor, tension, and emotional resonance, making the series simultaneously entertaining and intellectually stimulating. Ka-young's evolution throughout these events is gradual but profound. The series meticulously traces the incremental changes in her perceptions, emotional awareness, and relational skills. Initially detached and analytical, Ka-young begins to experience empathy, vulnerability, and a sense of responsibility that were previously foreign to her. Her interactions with Iblis, Sod, and other supporting characters function as catalysts for this development. Small moments, a glance, a hesitation, a quiet act of kindness, are given narrative weight, illustrating that emotional growth is cumulative, shaped by experience, reflection, and the interweaving of personal and interpersonal events. The storytelling emphasizes that transformation is rarely sudden, rather, it is the product of sustained engagement with challenges, moral dilemmas, and relational complexities. Iblis's transformation mirrors Ka-young's in complexity and subtlety. Initially, he approaches humans with condescension and amusement, seeing them as flawed creatures whose desires are trivial or self-serving. Yet, as he witnesses the unfolding consequences of each wish and the nuances of Ka-young's character, he begins to reconsider his assumptions. His sardonic wit and mischievous tendencies remain, providing both comic relief and narrative tension, but beneath this exterior, Iblis undergoes a profound re-evaluation of his role, his responsibilities, and the nature of human morality. The series portrays this transformation with careful attention to character psychology, dialogue, and action, allowing viewers to witness the gradual emergence of empathy, attachment, and moral consideration within a being who had been isolated for centuries. The series also employs its fantastical elements to explore philosophical and ethical questions in ways that are visually and narratively compelling. Magic, wish fulfillment, and supernatural interventions are not merely decorative, they serve as tools for examining causality, intention, and consequence. Each magical event is embedded within a broader moral and emotional framework, ensuring that the narrative remains grounded despite its fantastical elements. For example, the unintended consequences of a wish may lead to both comic mishaps and profound ethical quandaries, challenging the characters to make difficult decisions and prompting viewers to reflect on the complexities of choice, responsibility, and unintended effects. This integration of fantasy and moral inquiry is one of the series' defining strengths, creating a narrative that is both entertaining and thought-provoking. As the series approaches its climax, the stakes for both Iblis and Ka-young intensify dramatically. By this stage, the cumulative consequences of the wishes granted have created a complex web of interconnected events, each bearing moral and emotional weight. The narrative carefully constructs this tension, highlighting the cause and effect relationships that have emerged over the preceding episodes. Every decision, every wish, and every moment of interaction is given significance, demonstrating the series' meticulous attention to narrative cohesion and thematic depth. Iblis, who once regarded human desires with disdain, now finds himself confronting the unpredictability and resilience of human nature firsthand. The culmination of this tension is not solely external but also internal, as both Iblis and Ka-young face profound questions about identity, morality, and the nature of connection. Ka-young's third and final wish represents the apex of her character arc, encapsulating both her personal growth and the ethical themes the series has explored from the beginning. Unlike her first two wishes, which were exploratory and reactive, this final wish emerges from a place of selflessness, empathy, and moral consideration. The narrative emphasizes the deliberation, uncertainty, and introspection that accompany this decision, highlighting how far Ka-young has come from her initial emotional detachment. The consequences of this wish are both dramatic and nuanced, reflecting the complex interplay between intention and outcome that the series has consistently examined. Iblis, witnessing the authenticity and selflessness of the wish, experiences a profound revelation, challenging centuries of skepticism and reshaping his understanding of humanity. This moment is not only a turning point for the characters but also serves as the thematic fulcrum of the series, crystallizing its exploration of morality, love, and redemption. Parallel to Ka-young's personal journey, the series resolves the arcs of its supporting characters in ways that reinforce its central themes. Lee Mi-ju, rejuvenated through the consequences of an earlier wish, confronts her past regrets and navigates the complexities of newfound youth, illustrating the series' attention to the enduring effects of human desire across generations. Ryu Soo-hyun, Iblis's brother, experiences his own reckoning as his rivalry and antagonistic tendencies collide with the unfolding events. His arc provides both dramatic tension and philosophical contrast, underscoring the divergent paths available to beings who possess great power yet face ethical choices. The interplay among these characters creates a rich tapestry of narrative threads, each reinforcing the series' commitment to exploring human, and supernatural, complexity. Iblis's evolution reaches its zenith in the climactic episodes. Once a cynical observer of humanity, he now embodies a nuanced understanding of the interplay between desire, morality, and consequence. His sardonic wit and mischievous tendencies persist, providing humor and narrative tension, yet they are tempered by empathy and moral insight. The series takes care to illustrate that transformation is not linear or absolute, rather, it is iterative, marked by moments of doubt, hesitation, and reflection. Iblis's journey mirrors Ka-young's, emphasizing the reciprocal nature of growth and the ways in which relationships can catalyze profound change. The emotional resonance of these developments is heightened by carefully crafted dialogue, nuanced acting, and visual storytelling that highlights both the fantastical and human elements of the narrative. The resolution of the series is both emotionally satisfying and intellectually stimulating. By the end, the consequences of the characters' actions have been fully realized, and the moral and emotional questions posed throughout the series are addressed with care and nuance. Ka-young emerges as a fully realized character, capable of empathy, moral judgment, and emotional connection, while Iblis achieves a reconciliation between his centuries of experience and a newly found understanding of human virtue. The interplay between personal growth, ethical reflection, and narrative closure ensures that the series concludes in a manner that is both coherent and emotionally resonant. Viewers are left with a sense of closure, yet the philosophical and moral inquiries embedded in the story linger, inviting reflection and discussion beyond the screen. The series' use of fantasy as a narrative and thematic device continues to be central to its impact. Magic, wish fulfillment, and supernatural interventions are not mere spectacle, they serve as instruments for exploring complex ethical, emotional, and philosophical issues. The visual representation of magic, from the granting of wishes to the consequences that unfold, reinforces the narrative's thematic preoccupations, emphasizing the tangible effects of desire and the moral responsibilities that accompany power. The series' cinematography, special effects, and production design are carefully calibrated to balance realism and fantasy, ensuring that the viewer remains immersed in the story while engaging with its intellectual and emotional dimensions. Throughout the climax and resolution, the interplay between humor and drama remains a hallmark of the series. Iblis's sardonic humor, Ka-young's understated reactions, and the absurdity of certain wish consequences provide levity and accessibility, preventing the narrative from becoming overly didactic or morally heavy-handed. This balance is critical to the series' success, as it allows viewers to engage with complex themes while remaining emotionally and intellectually entertained. The integration of humor, emotion, and philosophical inquiry demonstrates the sophistication of the writing and the skill of the production team in creating a series that is both enjoyable and thought-provoking. In addition to its narrative and thematic achievements, Genie, Make-A-Wish excels in character-driven storytelling. Every major and minor character is given depth, motivation, and a clear arc. Even supporting figures such as Saad, the genie's assistant in the form of a black jaguar, and Iram, the eagle-owl companion, are imbued with personality, agency, and narrative significance. These characters not only contribute to plot progression but also serve as mirrors and foils to the main protagonists, highlighting themes of loyalty, moral responsibility, and the consequences of power. The careful development of these characters enriches the narrative, creating a world that feels lived in, complex, and emotionally engaging. The series' production design and visual storytelling reinforce its narrative and thematic ambitions. Locations, from the urban streets of Seoul to the exotic landscapes of Dubai, are chosen and rendered to support the story's emotional and fantastical dimensions. Costume design, special effects, and cinematography are employed not merely for spectacle but as extensions of character and theme. The visual presentation of wishes, magical effects, and the genie's powers is carefully calibrated to reflect the narrative's ethical and emotional stakes, ensuring that the viewer is consistently engaged both intellectually and viscerally. The interplay between visual style and narrative substance exemplifies the series' attention to detail and commitment to immersive storytelling. Throughout the series, the consequences of wishes provide a fertile ground for examining human nature and morality. Each episode serves as a miniature study of cause and effect, exploring how even the most seemingly innocuous desires can lead to far-reaching consequences. The writers meticulously craft scenarios in which characters' decisions, guided by impulse, curiosity, or latent emotion, produce results that challenge both their understanding and the audience's expectations. The show emphasizes that magic, while fantastical, functions as an allegory for power and responsibility. Iblis, as the arbiter of these wishes, is consistently confronted with the moral weight of his interventions. His centuries of detachment are gradually eroded by the subtle complexities of human desire, forcing him to reconsider notions of right and wrong, justice and mercy, and the subtle interplay between intention and outcome. The series excels at portraying these dilemmas in ways that are emotionally resonant, often presenting situations in which there are no perfect solutions, only choices with varying degrees of consequence. Ka-young's growth is explored in minute detail across the episodic structure. Early episodes focus on her emotional detachment and intellectual analysis of the genie's world, revealing both her strengths and limitations. She is highly intelligent, observant, and pragmatic, yet these qualities initially mask her inability to process or respond to emotional stimuli in conventional ways. As she interacts with Iblis and the unfolding events, her character slowly develops the capacity for empathy, moral reasoning, and self-reflection. Small gestures, a hesitation before making a wish, a moment of concern for another character, an unspoken understanding, are given narrative weight, illustrating the painstakingly incremental nature of personal growth. The show's pacing ensures that these transformations feel authentic, reflecting the series' commitment to psychological realism even within its fantastical framework. Iblis's evolution parallels Ka-young's in profound ways. Once purely cynical and detached, he begins to experience attachment, ethical responsibility, and a begrudging appreciation for human resilience. His humor remains sharp and sardonic, yet it is tempered by a growing recognition of complexity, consequence, and moral ambiguity. The interplay between his centuries-old wisdom and the unpredictable, often naive impulses of humans becomes a central narrative driver. His internal conflict, between his desire for detachment and his emerging moral consciousness, is explored through dialogue, actions, and the nuanced consequences of the wishes he grants. This evolution adds layers of depth to the series, elevating it from a simple fantasy romance into a profound meditation on morality, choice, and human nature. Supporting characters further enhance this exploration. Lee Mi-ju's storyline, for instance, examines themes of aging, regret, and second chances. Through her experiences, the series reflects on the long-term impact of human desire, illustrating that the repercussions of choices often extend far beyond the individual. Similarly, Ryu Soo-hyun's arc explores rivalry, jealousy, and the consequences of choices made in isolation. His role as a foil to Iblis reinforces the series' exploration of moral and ethical contrasts, emphasizing that different paths emerge from similar circumstances depending on character, intention, and interpretation of power. Even minor characters, such as Choi Min-ji and Oh Pan-jiam, are crafted with care, their interactions and decisions adding texture and realism to the world of the series. Each character's arc contributes to a rich tapestry of moral, emotional, and philosophical exploration. The series also skillfully integrates humor to balance the weighty moral and philosophical questions it poses. Iblis's mischievous nature provides both comic relief and narrative insight, using wit and sarcasm to illuminate human folly and to create tension within character interactions. Humor is never merely superficial, it serves as a lens through which deeper truths about human behavior, societal norms, and the unpredictable nature of desire are revealed. The juxtaposition of fantastical chaos with understated emotional moments ensures that the series remains engaging, preventing the philosophical and ethical inquiries from becoming overly didactic or inaccessible. This balance is a hallmark of the series' writing and contributes to its appeal across diverse audiences. In terms of narrative structure, Genie, Make-A-Wish employs a layered storytelling approach, interweaving episodic conflicts with overarching plotlines. Individual wishes serve as micronarratives, each with its own set of moral and emotional stakes, while the broader arc follows the evolution of the central characters and their interrelationships. This dual structure allows the series to explore both moment-to-moment consequences and long-term developmental trajectories, giving viewers a comprehensive and satisfying narrative experience. By examining consequences on both small and large scales, the series demonstrates the interconnectedness of human experience, emphasizing that no action exists in isolation and that moral reflection is an ongoing process rather than a single event. Visually, the series is striking, employing cinematography, special effects, and production design to reinforce narrative and thematic content. Urban Seoul serves as a backdrop for the mundane yet morally complex lives of the characters, while the more exotic locations, such as scenes filmed in Dubai, underscore the fantastical elements and global scope of the narrative. Special effects are employed not merely for spectacle but to illustrate the impact of wishes and the magical framework within which the characters operate. Lighting, color grading, and visual composition are carefully calibrated to reflect emotional states, moral tension, and narrative stakes, ensuring that viewers remain immersed in both the visual and conceptual dimensions of the story. The music and sound design complement the narrative, using motifs, leitmotifs, and thematic scores to reinforce character arcs, emotional transitions, and narrative tension. Subtle audio cues accompany the manifestation of wishes, ethical dilemmas, and moments of emotional revelation, heightening the viewer's engagement and providing an additional layer of storytelling. The integration of sound, visuals, and dialogue exemplifies the series' meticulous attention to immersive storytelling, demonstrating a cohesive and deliberate approach to the audiovisual experience. As the series progresses toward its conclusion, the consequences of the wishes granted by Iblis become increasingly central to the narrative. Each wish, carefully constructed to reveal character motives and test ethical frameworks, produces outcomes that are both anticipated and surprising. The series excels in showing that while the magical mechanics of wish fulfillment are fantastical, the moral and emotional consequences are deeply human. A single wish can affect not only the wisher but also friends, family, and even strangers, creating a network of cause and effect that underscores the interconnectedness of human lives. These consequences are not presented merely as plot devices but as reflections on the unpredictability of desire, the fragility of ethical frameworks, and the importance of foresight and reflection in decision-making. The series consistently reminds viewers that power, even when wielded with skill and intent, carries responsibility, and that ethical reflection is as important as action itself. Ka-young's emotional evolution reaches its most significant stage as she begins to anticipate the potential effects of her wishes on others. This marks a transformation from reactive to proactive engagement with her environment. Rather than simply making wishes and observing the consequences, she begins to consider how her actions may ripple outward, affecting the lives of those around her. This evolution is subtle and multifaceted, illustrated in moments of hesitation, quiet reflection, and self-directed questioning. The series emphasizes that true growth involves not only understanding oneself but also understanding the broader ethical and emotional landscape in which one operates. Ka-young's journey from detachment to moral awareness is one of the most compelling aspects of the series, providing a narrative through line that is emotionally resonant and intellectually stimulating. Iblis's transformation parallels this growth, creating a dynamic interplay between the two central characters. Initially cynical and amused by human folly, Iblis gradually develops a sense of ethical responsibility, tempered by his centuries of experience and observational insight. His humor, still sharp and sardonic, serves as both entertainment and commentary, highlighting the absurdity of certain human behaviors while offering insight into moral complexity. Through his interactions with Ka-young and other characters, Iblis learns that morality is not rigid or absolute but situational, relational, and dynamic. This nuanced portrayal of ethical development makes the character profoundly engaging and allows the audience to reflect on the complexity of their own moral frameworks. Secondary characters continue to deepen the narrative and thematic richness. Lee Mi-ju's story demonstrates the long-term consequences of desires and regrets, showing that human choices resonate across time and relationships. Ryu Soo-hyun, as both rival and foil, provides a contrast to Iblis's evolving ethics, illustrating the ways in which power and opportunity can lead to different moral outcomes depending on individual disposition and choice. Minor characters, including Saad and Iram, are given sufficient depth to act as mirrors and catalysts, reflecting the main character's growth and amplifying narrative tension. These layered characterizations ensure that the series remains engaging across multiple narrative threads, providing a rich, immersive experience for viewers. The interplay between humor and drama continues to be a defining feature. Iblis's mischievousness, Ka-young's understated reactions, and the unexpected consequences of wishes generate comedic relief while simultaneously reinforcing moral and philosophical themes. Humor is carefully integrated with narrative tension, ensuring that even in moments of levity, ethical reflection is encouraged. This balance between lightheartedness and seriousness prevents the narrative from becoming overly didactic and maintains accessibility for a broad audience, allowing the series to communicate complex ideas without sacrificing entertainment value. The resolution of character arcs is both satisfying and thematically consistent. By the end of the series, Ka-young emerges as a fully realized individual, capable of empathy, foresight, and moral reasoning. Her growth is not instantaneous but cumulative, marked by reflection, challenge, and the subtle influence of relationships and circumstances. Iblis, having confronted centuries of skepticism and isolation, gains insight into human virtue, morality, and the potential for selflessness. Their relationship, evolving from a transactional arrangement to one of mutual respect, understanding, and subtle emotional intimacy, serves as the emotional heart of the series. The culmination of these arcs emphasizes the series' central themes: the complexity of desire, the moral responsibility of action, and the transformative potential of empathy and connection. The series' visual and auditory elements continue to reinforce narrative and thematic content. Cinematography, special effects, and set design are employed to illustrate both the fantastical nature of wishes and their tangible consequences. Lighting and color grading are used to reflect character emotions, narrative tension, and thematic contrasts, while sound design and musical motifs reinforce key emotional beats and underscore ethical and philosophical considerations. This integration of audiovisual elements with storytelling exemplifies the series' meticulous attention to detail and commitment to immersive narrative experiences. The broader reception of the series reflects its success in balancing entertainment with thematic depth. Viewers and critics alike have praised the series for its sophisticated storytelling, rich character development, and thoughtful exploration of morality, desire, and consequence. Social media discussion emphasizes both the charm of the lead actors' performances and the intellectual engagement offered by the narrative. The series' unique blend of fantasy, romance, and comedy, combined with its philosophical underpinnings, ensures broad appeal while offering layers of meaning for more reflective audiences. In conclusion, Genie, Make-A-Wish stands out as a series that masterfully integrates fantasy and reality, humor and philosophy, action and introspection. Through the evolving arcs of Ka-young, Iblis, and the ensemble of supporting characters, the series examines human desire, ethical responsibility, and the transformative power of empathy. The careful construction of wish consequences, moral dilemmas, and character interactions creates a richly textured narrative, while the audiovisual presentation enhances emotional and intellectual engagement. Ultimately, the series invites viewers to reflect on their own values, choices, and relationships, demonstrating that even in a fantastical framework, the exploration of human nature remains profound, relevant, and deeply moving. The series structure of Genie, Make-A-Wish allows for careful exploration of character development and thematic depth on an episode-by-episode basis. The first few episodes focus on establishing the foundational relationship between Ka-young and Iblis. Early encounters highlight Ka-young's emotional detachment, her logical approach to understanding Iblis, and the genie's playful yet sardonic responses. The visual storytelling emphasizes contrast, the mundane urban streets of Seoul against the surreal aura of the genie's lamp and the magical manifestations of wishes. The writers use these initial episodes to establish both narrative stakes and philosophical undertones, hinting at the moral dilemmas and ethical reflections that will become central to the story. Even in scenes of comedic mischief, the groundwork is laid for deeper exploration of human desire, consequence, and morality. The mid-season episodes expand the series' narrative scope by introducing more complex wishes and exploring the ripple effects of previously granted ones. Secondary characters, including Lee Mi-ju, Choi Min-ji, and Ryu Soo-hyun, become increasingly prominent, and their storylines intertwine with Ka-young and Iblis's journey. For instance, Lee Mi-ju's wish to regain youth serves as a catalyst for reflection on regret, opportunity, and generational perspectives. The narrative explores how power and choice intersect with responsibility, emphasizing that even the best-intentioned actions can have unforeseen repercussions. Ryu Soo-hyun's rivalry with Iblis introduces tension and conflict that challenge the protagonist's moral reasoning and ethical decision-making, illustrating the series' attention to layered character interactions and dynamic plot development. Subplots involving minor characters add texture and emotional resonance to the series. Choi Min-ji, Ka-young's only close friend, provides a lens into ordinary human concerns, emphasizing the relatability of the narrative even amidst fantastical elements. Saad, the Black Jaguar assistant, and Iram, the Eagle Owl companion, serve not only as fantastical elements but also as reflections of loyalty, insight, and perspective, their actions often subtly influencing key decisions and character growth. The careful interweaving of major and minor character storylines ensures that each episode is densely layered, with multiple narrative threads contributing to overarching themes of morality, desire, and the consequences of action. Episodes exploring individual wishes are particularly rich in narrative complexity. Each wish functions as a microcosm for the series' philosophical inquiry. The show illustrates the unforeseen consequences of desire with intricate plotting and attention to cause and effect relationships. A seemingly simple wish may unfold into a series of interrelated events that challenge characters' assumptions, ethics, and emotional capacities. The consequences of wishes are portrayed in both literal and metaphorical terms, creating opportunities for reflection on human nature, morality, and the intricacies of intention and outcome. The series emphasizes that wisdom is often earned through experience and reflection, rather than granted instantaneously, and that even supernatural intervention cannot shield one from the moral weight of one's actions. The series also uses episode-level pacing to build tension and emotional investment. Climactic moments are carefully foreshadowed, ensuring that developments in each episode feel both surprising and inevitable. Emotional beats are given space to resonate, whether through introspective dialogue, subtle gestures, or visually symbolic sequences. The interaction between humor and drama remains central, balancing comedic relief with ethical reflection and emotional depth. For example, the absurdity of certain wish consequences is used not merely for laughs but to underscore deeper truths about human folly, desire, and moral responsibility. This careful balance ensures that the series engages viewers on multiple levels, simultaneously entertaining and provoking thoughtful consideration. As the series approaches its final episodes, the consequences of earlier wishes converge, creating a dense web of interrelated events that heighten narrative tension and emotional stakes. Ka-young's final decisions, guided by her moral growth and understanding of human interconnectedness, illustrate the culmination of her character arc. Iblis's evolving ethical perspective and emotional engagement reach their peak, revealing the depth of his transformation and the reciprocal nature of growth between the central characters. The narrative resolution balances satisfaction with reflection, providing closure while inviting ongoing contemplation of the series' philosophical and ethical questions. The final episodes also give significant attention to the resolution of secondary characters' arcs. Lee Mi-ju, having navigated the challenges of her youth regained through magic, finds reconciliation with past regrets and a renewed understanding of her relationship with Ka-young and other family members. Ryu Soo-hyun's confrontation with Iblis and Ka-young highlights the divergent paths available to individuals when faced with power, desire, and ethical choice. Even minor characters experience moments of reflection and transformation, illustrating the series' commitment to comprehensive character development. These resolutions reinforce the series' thematic emphasis on moral responsibility, empathy, and the complexity of human experience, ensuring that the narrative is both emotionally and intellectually cohesive. Visually and auditorily, the series maintains its immersive qualities through careful attention to production design, cinematography, and sound. Each episode uses lighting, color, and visual composition to reflect character states, narrative tension, and thematic undertones. Magical elements, from the manifestation of wishes to the interactions with fantastical companions, are rendered with attention to both spectacle and symbolic meaning, ensuring that the fantastical elements reinforce the narrative rather than distract from it. The musical score and sound design complement these visuals, heightening emotional impact and reinforcing ethical and philosophical themes. This meticulous integration of audiovisual elements contributes to the series' overall effectiveness and audience engagement. The wishes granted by Iblis are central to the narrative, serving as both plot drivers and philosophical explorations. Each wish is carefully crafted to reflect the wisher's innermost desires, latent fears, and ethical blind spots. The series emphasizes that no desire exists in isolation, every wish interacts with existing social, emotional, and moral systems, producing outcomes that are unpredictable and often transformative. For instance, Ka-young's first wish is deceptively simple, a wish that initially seems personal and trivial. On the surface, it reflects her curiosity about the magical world and her intellectual engagement with Iblis. Yet as the wish manifests, its consequences ripple outward, impacting those around her in ways that neither she nor Iblis could have anticipated. This scenario establishes one of the series' recurring lessons: even seemingly inconsequential choices have far-reaching consequences, and moral responsibility extends beyond immediate intent. The series' second wish demonstrates a marked evolution in Ka-young's character. Unlike her first wish, which is exploratory and detached, the second wish is motivated by latent emotions and subconscious moral reflection. This wish forces Ka-young to consider not only her own desires but also the potential impact on others. The narrative explores the tension between self-interest and ethical obligation, illustrating how moral deliberation can be both intellectually challenging and emotionally taxing. Iblis, observing the unfolding consequences, begins to develop a nuanced appreciation for human ethical reasoning. His centuries of cynicism are confronted with the complexity, unpredictability, and depth of human moral thought. These moments underscore the series' philosophical richness, using magical wish fulfillment as a lens for examining timeless ethical questions. Secondary characters' wishes add additional layers of complexity. Lee Mi-ju's rejuvenation wish, for example, presents an ethical and emotional dilemma that extends beyond personal gain. Regaining youth disrupts established social roles, generational hierarchies, and emotional bonds, forcing both Mi-ju and her family members to re-evaluate relationships and priorities. Similarly, the wishes of other minor characters, such as Choi Min-ji and supporting figures, create cascading consequences that illuminate the interconnectedness of human experience. The series demonstrates that power, magical or otherwise, cannot be exercised without awareness of broader social and moral repercussions. Each episode meticulously illustrates these interdependencies, creating a richly layered narrative in which ethical and emotional consequences are inseparable from fantastical events. The third and final wishes, particularly Ka-young's, are the narrative and philosophical culmination of the series. Her final wish, arising from selflessness, empathy, and moral insight, highlights the culmination of her character growth. The wish's consequences, though magical in nature, resonate with profound ethical significance, reinforcing the series' central exploration of morality and human interconnectedness. Iblis, witnessing this act of genuine selflessness, experiences a profound transformation, challenging his assumptions about human nature and moral potential. The narrative emphasizes that moral growth and ethical understanding are iterative and relational processes, shaped by experience, reflection, and interaction with others. The interplay between wish fulfillment and moral development is depicted with subtlety and depth, ensuring that the audience perceives both the emotional resonance and philosophical significance of these climactic events. Interwoven with the consequences of individual wishes are the series' recurring ethical and philosophical motifs. The narrative repeatedly examines the tension between intention and outcome, the limits of knowledge and foresight, and the moral responsibility inherent in exercising power. Iblis, as both observer and agent, becomes a conduit for exploring these themes, his centuries of experience providing perspective while also highlighting the limits of detached observation. The series suggests that ethical understanding is not static or absolute but dynamic, emergent from interaction, experience, and reflection. The consequences of wishes, both intended and unintended, are portrayed as mechanisms for moral and emotional education, reinforcing the series' overarching thematic concerns. The interconnectedness of wishes and their consequences is emphasized through careful plotting and episodic structure. Early wishes produce outcomes that later episodes revisit, creating narrative resonance and continuity. This technique reinforces the series' central lesson: actions, intentions, and moral choices are rarely isolated, and the consequences of one event inevitably influence subsequent developments. The writers use this interconnectivity to explore complex ethical questions, illustrating that morality is both situational and systemic. By linking the outcomes of multiple wishes across episodes, the series builds a cohesive moral universe in which human choices and supernatural interventions intersect, producing a richly textured narrative landscape. Humor and levity continue to play a vital role in the depiction of wishes and their consequences. Iblis's sardonic commentary, the unexpected absurdity of wish outcomes, and the human character's sometimes comically inept responses provide contrast to the narrative's moral and philosophical weight. Humor serves multiple purposes: it engages the audience, highlights human folly, and underscores ethical lessons without becoming heavy-handed. The interplay of comedy and moral reflection ensures that the series remains accessible while providing opportunities for intellectual and emotional engagement. In this way, the depiction of wishes functions not only as fantastical spectacle but also as ethical and philosophical meditation, balancing entertainment with reflection. In the later episodes of Genie, Make-A-Wish, the resolution of minor character arcs becomes a critical vehicle for exploring the broader thematic tapestry of the series. While Ka-young and Iblis dominate the central narrative, the lives and choices of secondary characters provide nuanced insight into the interconnected nature of human desire, moral responsibility, and the consequences of power. Lee Mi-ju, for example, grapples with the implications of her wish for renewed youth. While regaining vitality initially offers excitement and freedom, it also presents unforeseen challenges. She must navigate a world where generational hierarchies have shifted, where relationships formed over decades are altered, and where societal expectations clash with her transformed identity. The narrative carefully examines her emotional journey, highlighting themes of regret, adaptation, and personal reinvention. Mi-ju's arc emphasizes that even when wishes appear to fulfill personal desire, ethical, emotional, and social responsibilities remain inescapable, and that true growth often comes from the reconciliation of past mistakes with present opportunity. Similarly, Ryu Soo-hyun's arc explores the consequences of rivalry, jealousy, and ambition. As Iblis's brother and foil, his choices are motivated by a mixture of pride, resentment, and moral confusion. His interactions with both Iblis and Ka-young serve to contrast alternative approaches to power and responsibility. While Iblis gradually learns empathy and moral restraint, Ryu Soo-hyun demonstrates the pitfalls of unchecked ambition and detachment from ethical reflection. The series uses his storyline to examine questions of moral divergence, how two individuals with similar capacities for power can traverse markedly different ethical paths based on disposition, intention, and engagement with others. This layered characterization ensures that viewers are invited to consider moral complexity rather than simple dichotomies of good and evil. Even minor characters like Choi Min-ji and Oh Pan-jium contribute to the narrative's exploration of consequence and ethical reflection. Choi Min-ji's seemingly peripheral actions reveal the interconnected nature of the series' moral universe. Through her interactions with Ka-young, she highlights ordinary human concerns and the ways in which subtle moral choices accumulate over time. Oh Pan-jium, Ka-young's grandmother, embodies generational wisdom and provides both emotional grounding and ethical insight. Her presence underscores the series' attention to familial and intergenerational dynamics, illustrating how desires, regrets, and moral lessons cascade across family lines and affect collective experience. These arcs collectively reinforce the series' central thesis: human lives are intertwined, and ethical responsibility extends beyond the individual to the broader social and emotional fabric. The generational consequences of wishes are particularly striking in the narrative. Wishes made by one character frequently influence the lives of multiple generations, illustrating the long-term ramifications of desire and action. This thematic emphasis on ripple effects highlights the series' moral sophistication, emphasizing foresight, accountability, and ethical contemplation. For instance, a wish that initially seems beneficial may create ethical dilemmas or emotional tension for descendants or peers, reinforcing the idea that decisions, magical or mundane, carry consequences far beyond immediate intent. By exploring these long-term effects, the series situates its fantastical elements within a deeply human moral and social context, bridging fantasy with ethical realism. The series also deepens its exploration of empathy, emotional intelligence, and relational ethics through these secondary arcs. Ka-young's interactions with minor characters provide opportunities for her to observe, reflect, and ultimately integrate moral lessons into her own growth. Iblis's observation of these interactions further refines his understanding of human virtue, revealing the subtle ways in which empathy and relational awareness inform ethical decision-making. This dual focus on primary and secondary character experiences allows the series to create a multi-layered examination of morality, desire, and consequence. It reinforces that ethical growth is not an isolated journey but one shaped by observation, engagement, and relational context. In addition to character-focused resolution, the series continues to employ its visual and auditory design to reinforce ethical and emotional lessons. Lighting, framing, and color palettes are adjusted to reflect shifts in perspective, moral tension, and emotional climax, providing viewers with both visual cues and narrative reinforcement. Musical scoring underscores moments of reflection, moral choice, and emotional revelation, creating a holistic audiovisual narrative that integrates fantastical spectacle with philosophical inquiry. This attention to sensory detail ensures that the narrative's ethical and emotional complexity is fully realized, engaging audiences on multiple levels. The resolution of minor character arcs also highlights the series' commitment to narrative cohesion and thematic integrity. Every subplot, wish consequence, and character decision is woven into the larger moral and philosophical tapestry, ensuring that the narrative feels fully integrated rather than episodically fragmented. By the conclusion, viewers can trace the interconnections between personal desires, moral decisions, and broader social consequences, gaining a comprehensive understanding of the narrative universe the series has constructed. This meticulous attention to interconnectivity elevates the storytelling, transforming the series from a simple fantasy romance into a complex meditation on human ethics, relationships, and moral responsibility. As the series approaches its denouement, Ka-young and Iblis confront the culmination of their intertwined journeys. Throughout the series, their relationship has evolved from one defined by curiosity, detachment, and sardonic humor into a complex partnership grounded in mutual respect, understanding, and subtle emotional intimacy. The final episodes focus on the resolution of this central dynamic, illustrating how experiences, moral reflection, and shared challenges have transformed both characters. Ka-young, once emotionally detached, now demonstrates empathy, foresight, and ethical maturity. Iblis, whose centuries of isolation fostered cynicism and detachment, now engages deeply with moral and emotional realities, guided by observation, reflection, and his growing bond with Ka-young. Their final interactions emphasize that ethical growth, emotional awareness, and relational understanding are cumulative processes, shaped by interaction, consequence, and reflection over time. Ka-young's final wish, a manifestation of her growth, encapsulates the series' central philosophical inquiry. It is neither impulsive nor self-serving but deliberate, morally considerate, and guided by empathy. The narrative emphasizes her reflective decision-making process, illustrating how she has internalized lessons from previous wishes, consequences, and interactions. The wish itself operates on multiple levels. It resolves specific narrative conflicts, demonstrates her ethical and emotional maturity, and symbolically reinforces the series' exploration of human potential, responsibility, and the transformative power of selflessness. Iblis's response to this final wish reflects his own character arc, highlighting the interplay between wisdom, observation, and moral engagement. The climax of their partnership underscores a core series theme: genuine moral insight emerges from experience, reflection, and relational engagement rather than detached observation or unexamined power. The philosophical implications of Ka-young and Iblis's relationship extend beyond narrative closure. Their journey embodies central ethical questions posed throughout the series: the tension between desire and consequence, the limits of foresight, and the importance of empathy in moral reasoning. The series suggests that ethical understanding is relational and iterative, cultivated through observation, dialogue, and interaction. Iblis, who initially regarded human desires as trivial or morally suspect, comes to recognize the complexity, resilience, and virtue that can emerge from genuine human intention. Ka-young's development demonstrates that emotional growth, ethical awareness, and moral courage can emerge even in individuals who initially perceive themselves as emotionally detached. Together, their arcs illustrate a mutual transformation, reflecting the series' emphasis on relational ethics and the dynamic interplay of morality, experience, and emotional intelligence. The resolution of secondary and minor character arcs in these final episodes reinforces the series' thematic cohesion. Lee Mi-ju reconciles her renewed youth with the responsibilities and emotional consequences it entails, illustrating generational continuity and the moral complexities inherent in personal transformation. Ryu Soo-hyun, having confronted his rivalry with Iblis and the moral implications of his own actions, experiences a nuanced resolution that emphasizes reflection, humility, and the potential for ethical recalibration. Even minor characters like Choi Min-ji and Oh Pan-jium find closure in ways that reinforce narrative cohesion, illustrating that the series' ethical universe extends beyond its central figures. The careful resolution of these arcs ensures that the narrative feels holistic, morally consistent, and emotionally satisfying, providing viewers with both closure and philosophical resonance. The final episodes also highlight the consequences of previous wishes, creating a cumulative narrative effect that emphasizes interconnectedness and moral causality. Early and mid-series wishes are revisited, showing how seemingly isolated desires created ripple effects that influenced multiple characters and narrative threads. This interconnectivity reinforces one of the series' central lessons: choices, intentions, and actions, whether magical or mundane, produce consequences that extend beyond the immediate moment, impacting individuals, relationships, and communities in unforeseen ways. The resolution of these interwoven consequences demonstrates narrative sophistication, reinforcing the series' overarching themes of moral responsibility, empathy, and the systemic nature of human action. Visually and thematically, the series concludes with a synthesis of its fantastical and ethical motifs. Cinematography, color, and lighting emphasize emotional resolution and thematic clarity, illustrating the moral and emotional growth of central and secondary characters. Magical elements, such as the manifestation of wishes, are depicted with both visual spectacle and symbolic meaning, reinforcing narrative and philosophical messages. Musical scoring underscores moments of ethical reflection, emotional closure, and narrative culmination, ensuring that viewers experience both visceral and intellectual engagement. This careful integration of visual, auditory, and narrative elements exemplifies the series' meticulous attention to immersive storytelling, creating a finale that is both aesthetically satisfying and thematically coherent. Finally, the series' conclusion offers a broader reflection on human potential, morality, and relational ethics. By resolving the arcs of Ka-young, Iblis, and supporting characters, the narrative emphasizes that moral growth is neither instantaneous nor linear, but cumulative, relational, and iterative. Empathy, reflection, and engagement with consequences are central to ethical development, and the series illustrates these principles through carefully constructed character arcs and interconnected narrative events. In this way, Genie, Make-A-Wish transcends simple fantasy or romance storytelling, offering a meditation on human nature, moral responsibility, and the transformative power of ethical reflection and emotional awareness. The conclusion invites viewers to consider the consequences of their own desires, the ethical weight of their decisions, and the potential for growth through relational engagement, ensuring that the series resonates intellectually, emotionally, and morally long after its final scene. The reception of Genie, Make-A-Wish has been overwhelmingly positive, both domestically in South Korea and internationally through Netflix's global distribution. Critics and viewers alike have praised the series for its sophisticated storytelling, richly layered character development, and its innovative blending of genres. While the series is a fantasy romance at its surface, audiences quickly recognize the depth of its philosophical and ethical inquiry, which sets it apart from more conventional genre fare. Viewers have consistently highlighted the compelling dynamic between Ka-young and Iblis as one of the series' central strengths. Their evolving relationship, from curiosity and detachment to moral partnership and subtle emotional intimacy, resonates deeply because it mirrors the transformative nature of human relationships in the real world. This combination of fantastical spectacle and profound character study has become a hallmark of the series' appeal. Culturally, the series has sparked conversations around moral responsibility, human desire, and relational ethics. Social media discussions frequently analyze the ethical dilemmas presented in individual episodes, debating the consequences of wishes and the philosophical implications of Ka-young and Iblis's choices. Fans have created extensive forums and video essays examining the narrative's treatment of intention versus outcome, the moral evolution of characters, and the symbolic significance of magical interventions. The show has been praised for encouraging viewers to reflect on their own actions, desires, and relationships, offering not just entertainment but also a framework for ethical reflection. In this sense, Genie, Make-A-Wish has become more than a television series. It functions as a cultural artifact, prompting audiences to engage thoughtfully with questions of morality, empathy, and consequence. The performances of Kim Woo-bin as Iblis and Bae Suzy as Ka-young have received particular acclaim. Critics highlight the subtlety of Suzy's performance, capturing Ka-young's initial emotional detachment and her gradual awakening to empathy and moral awareness. Similarly, Kim Woo-bin's portrayal of Iblis balances sardonic humor with profound ethical and emotional depth, illustrating the complexity of a being who has existed for centuries yet learns the value of moral engagement through observation and relational interaction. The chemistry between the two leads has been consistently lauded, with their interactions conveying both tension and warmth, humor and gravity, reflecting the series' thematic duality. Supporting cast members, including Lee Mi-ju, Ryu Soo-hyun, and minor characters like Choi Min-ji and Oh Pan-jiam, are praised for contributing richness and depth, ensuring that the narrative universe feels lived in, emotionally resonant, and ethically complex. Critical analysis has often emphasized the series' exploration of ethical complexity. Each wish granted by Iblis functions as a case study in moral reasoning, illustrating the interplay between intention, consequence, and unforeseen effects. Critics have noted that the series successfully avoids simplistic moralizing, instead presenting nuanced scenarios where outcomes are both rewarding and challenging, often with no single, right, resolution. This narrative strategy encourages viewers to engage with moral ambiguity, empathy, and the long-term effects of actions. The series' integration of humor, fantasy, and philosophical inquiry has been particularly praised, as it allows for ethical reflection without sacrificing narrative engagement or entertainment value. The series demonstrates that complex moral storytelling can coexist with humor, romance, and fantastical spectacle, expanding the boundaries of contemporary Korean television drama. The cultural impact extends to discussions of intergenerational relationships, social responsibility, and ethical reflection in everyday life. By highlighting the consequences of wishes across multiple characters and generations, the series encourages audiences to consider how personal choices reverberate through families, communities, and broader social structures. The intergenerational consequences of characters like Lee Mi-ju and Oh Pan-jeom emphasize the ripple effects of decision-making, while minor characters such as Choi Min-ji and other supporting figures illustrate that ethical reflection and growth are not limited to central protagonists. In this way, the series integrates moral, emotional, and social dimensions, offering viewers a multifaceted exploration of human interconnectedness and relational responsibility. The series' production values further reinforce its impact. Cinematography, visual effects, costume and set design, and soundscapes are all meticulously executed to support narrative, ethical, and emotional dimensions. Fantasy elements such as magical manifestations, the genie's powers, and surreal wish consequences are integrated seamlessly into the real-world urban environments of Seoul and the exotic locales of Dubai, creating a cohesive visual language that enhances both spectacle and thematic resonance. Music and sound design underscore emotional beats, ethical reflection, and narrative tension, ensuring that viewers experience the story on multiple sensory and cognitive levels. The combination of high production values, nuanced performances, and sophisticated storytelling elevates the series beyond conventional fantasy romance fare, making it both culturally and critically significant. Finally, the lasting legacy of Genie, Make-A-Wish lies in its exploration of human nature, morality, and relational ethics. Through Ga-young's and Iblis's journeys, the series demonstrates that personal growth is iterative, relational, and deeply connected to the ethical consequences of action. The interconnected arcs of secondary and minor characters reinforce the systemic nature of moral responsibility and highlight the ripple effects of desire and choice. The series leaves viewers with enduring questions: how do our intentions align with outcomes? How do empathy, ethical reflection, and relational engagement shape our growth? What responsibilities do we bear for the unintended consequences of our desires? In addressing these questions within a fantastical, humorous, and emotionally resonant framework, Genie, Make-A-Wish achieves a rare balance between entertainment, philosophical inquiry, and cultural significance. In conclusion, Genie, Make-A-Wish is a landmark series in contemporary South Korean television. It combines fantasy, romance, and comedy with profound philosophical, ethical, and emotional exploration. From the central arcs of Ga-young and Iblis to the nuanced development of secondary and minor characters, the series presents a richly interconnected narrative that examines desire, consequence, empathy, and moral responsibility. Its audiovisual excellence, strong performances, and carefully layered writing create a fully immersive experience that resonates with audiences both domestically and internationally. By exploring the transformative power of ethical reflection and relational engagement, the series offers not only entertainment but also enduring moral and philosophical insight, ensuring its place as a culturally significant and intellectually stimulating work. At the heart of Genie, Make-A-Wish lies the exploration of human desire and the moral weight of fulfilling those desires. The series uses magical wish fulfillment as both a narrative device and a philosophical lens, allowing viewers to examine how intention, consequence, and ethical responsibility intersect in complex ways. Wishes in the series are never simple. Each desire, regardless of how trivial or monumental it seems, sets off a cascade of consequences that impact not only the individual but also the larger social, familial, and emotional networks in which they exist. By examining the ethical dimensions of wish fulfillment, the series challenges viewers to reflect on their own moral frameworks and the ways in which personal choices affect others, both directly and indirectly. The first layer of ethical complexity arises from the unpredictability of consequences. Iblis, the genie, possesses immense power and centuries of observation, yet even he cannot perfectly anticipate the outcomes of every wish. This narrative choice underscores the inherent uncertainty of moral decision-making. In the series, Ka-young's initial wishes appear innocuous but produce unexpected results that ripple through her immediate environment. This unpredictability mirrors real-life ethical dilemmas, where even well-intentioned actions can have unintended consequences. The series emphasizes that moral responsibility is not limited to the intention behind an action, it also encompasses the consequences that follow, whether foreseeable or not. A second ethical dimension involves the tension between self-interest and altruism. Many of the wishes granted by Iblis reflect the individual desires of the characters, often prioritizing personal gain, curiosity, or emotional satisfaction. Early episodes highlight Ka-young's analytical detachment, which allows her to treat wishes as experiments rather than moral choices. However, as the narrative progresses, she encounters situations in which her wishes affect the well-being of others. These scenarios create moral tension: should she pursue her own desires, or should she consider the broader ethical implications of her actions? The series uses these situations to examine the nature of altruism, selflessness, and ethical deliberation, showing that true moral growth often involves balancing personal interest with consideration for the welfare of others. The role of power in ethical decision-making is another central theme. Iblis represents the ultimate arbiter of desire, capable of granting any wish, yet constrained by the ethical implications of doing so. His centuries of observation grant him insight into human behavior, yet even his wisdom cannot eliminate moral ambiguity. Through Iblis, the series explores questions about the ethical use of power: what responsibilities come with the ability to influence others' lives? How does one reconcile the freedom to act with the potential for harm? By positioning Iblis as both a facilitator and an observer, the series emphasizes that power and ethical responsibility are inseparable, and that those who possess the ability to act must carefully weigh the potential consequences of their actions. The narrative further explores ethical dilemmas through generational and relational consequences. Wishes made by one character often affect multiple generations, creating ripple effects that highlight the interconnectedness of human experience. For example, Lee Mi-ju's wish to regain youth disrupts generational hierarchies and forces both herself and her family to reconsider their relationships. These storylines emphasize that ethical responsibility is not confined to immediate outcomes but extends across time and social networks. The series suggests that morality is systemic, actions and choices have far-reaching implications, and ethical reflection must consider both immediate and long-term consequences. The unpredictability of wish fulfillment also allows the series to explore the theme of moral ambiguity. Not all consequences are clearly positive or negative, many are mixed, requiring characters to navigate complex moral terrain. A wish intended to help one person may inadvertently harm another, forcing characters to confront the nuances of ethical decision-making. These situations reflect real-life moral dilemmas, where outcomes are rarely absolute and decisions often involve trade-offs. By presenting morally ambiguous consequences, the series encourages viewers to engage in reflective thinking, considering multiple perspectives and the interconnected nature of human action. The ethical framework of the series is further enriched by the evolution of Ka-young and Iblis. Ka-young's journey from detachment to empathy illustrates the importance of moral education through experience. Her initial lack of emotional engagement allows her to observe consequences dispassionately, yet repeated encounters with unintended outcomes gradually cultivate her ethical awareness. Similarly, Iblis evolves from a cynical observer of human folly to a morally engaged agent, recognizing the value of empathy, foresight, and relational responsibility. The interplay between these two central characters demonstrates that ethical understanding is both relational and iterative, emerging from reflection, observation, and interaction rather than from abstract rules or innate morality. The series also integrates humor and fantastical elements to explore ethical questions in an accessible and engaging way. Comedic consequences of wishes, absurd situations, and Iblis's sardonic commentary provide levity while simultaneously highlighting moral lessons. This balance ensures that the exploration of ethics remains engaging and relatable, illustrating that philosophical inquiry need not be divorced from entertainment. In fact, the juxtaposition of humor and moral reflection enhances the audience's ability to internalize the lessons, creating a narrative that is both enjoyable and intellectually stimulating. Each wish in the series functions as a microcosm for ethical inquiry, illustrating the unpredictable relationship between intention and outcome. Ka-young's first wish, while seemingly simple, sets off a chain of events that affect her peers in unexpected ways. For instance, a wish aimed at personal convenience inadvertently disrupts her friend Choi Min-ji's emotional life, highlighting the ripple effects of even the smallest desires. The series meticulously documents these consequences, emphasizing that moral responsibility encompasses both intended and unintended effects. By presenting consequences visually, emotionally, and narratively, the series encourages viewers to consider the broader implications of their actions. Ka-young's second wish introduces the theme of latent emotion and subconscious motivation. Unlike the first wish, which is exploratory and detached, this one arises from her internal emotional state, revealing desires she had not fully articulated or acknowledged. The ethical implications are profound. The wish is technically permissible, yet it creates moral tension because the emotional impact on surrounding characters is unforeseen. Iblis observes these developments with a mixture of amusement and concern, providing commentary on human unpredictability while also emphasizing the limits of knowledge, even for a centuries-old being. These early examples establish a narrative pattern in which each wish functions as a moral experiment, teaching characters, and viewers, about the complexities of desire, responsibility, and consequence. Secondary characters' wishes, such as Lee Mi-ju's rejuvenation and Ryu Soo-hyun's rivalry-driven desires, further illustrate the series' ethical depth. Mi-ju's wish, initially framed as personal empowerment, disrupts generational roles and familial dynamics, creating both opportunity and ethical tension. Her arc demonstrates that morality is not solely about intent but also about navigating the social and emotional consequences of one's actions. Ryu Soo-hyun's wishes highlight the perils of unchecked ambition and detachment from relational ethics. By contrasting these outcomes with Ka-young's evolving moral awareness, the series illustrates the diverse ways in which desires interact with ethical frameworks and relational contexts. Minor characters, including Choi Min-ji, Oh Pan-jiam, and fantastical companions like Saad and Iram, are given narrative weight through their own wishes and decisions. While these characters are not the primary focus, their experiences are essential to understanding the systemic nature of morality in the series. Choi Min-ji's wish, for example, may appear peripheral, but it highlights the subtle ways in which personal desires intersect with broader social and emotional networks. Oh Pan-jiam, representing generational wisdom, makes decisions that emphasize long-term consequences and relational ethics, reinforcing the series' focus on moral reflection across time. Even fantastical characters, such as Saad and Iram, play roles that extend ethical inquiry. Saada's interventions, often covert but impactful, illustrate that ethical action can occur outside human norms, highlighting alternative perspectives on responsibility, foresight, and consequence. Iram functions similarly, offering guidance or disruption that forces human characters to confront their own moral limitations. By weaving these secondary and minor wishes into the broader narrative, the series constructs a complex moral ecosystem in which every action, no matter how small, has significance. A key feature of the series is its exploration of intergenerational consequences. Wishes rarely affect only the immediate wisher, they create ripple effects that influence family, friends, and even social structures. Lee Mi-ju's rejuvenation, Ka-young's evolving decisions, and minor character interventions all demonstrate that moral responsibility extends across generations. The series uses these scenarios to explore relational ethics, the idea that moral reasoning must consider the effects of actions on interconnected human systems, not just isolated individuals. These intergenerational consequences encourage viewers to reflect on the broader impact of their choices, emphasizing foresight, empathy, and relational awareness as central ethical principles. Ka-young's ethical development is intimately tied to her understanding of these ripple effects. Initially detached, she observes consequences with curiosity rather than moral concern. Over time, repeated exposure to unintended outcomes cultivates empathy and foresight, teaching her that moral action requires consideration of complex, often unpredictable relational dynamics. This growth mirrors real-world ethical development, where reflection and experience shape moral judgment and relational understanding. Iblis, as the immortal genie, offers a unique perspective on morality. His centuries of observation grant him insight into patterns of human behavior, yet even he is challenged by the unpredictability of wishes and the complexity of relational dynamics. Iblis's moral reasoning evolves throughout the series, from detached amusement at human folly to active engagement in ethical dilemmas. He observes the consequences of each wish and reflects on the alignment, or misalignment, between intention and outcome. Through Iblis, the series explores questions of ethical authority and power. What responsibilities accompany the ability to influence others' lives profoundly? How does one reconcile freedom of action with the potential for harm? By framing these questions through a fantastical lens, the series allows viewers to explore ethical principles in a heightened context while drawing parallels to real-world moral challenges. Ultimately, the series uses wish fulfillment to explore broader philosophical questions. Each narrative thread examines the interplay of intention, consequence, and ethical responsibility. Characters learn that moral growth is iterative, relational, and contingent on experience and reflection. Power, whether magical or mundane, carries inherent responsibility, and the consequences of action extend beyond immediate intent. The series also emphasizes the role of empathy and emotional intelligence in ethical reasoning. Ka-young's development, mirrored in Iblis's evolving engagement, demonstrates that moral awareness is cultivated through observation, reflection, and relational engagement. Wishes function as a mechanism for ethical education, providing scenarios that test judgment, empathy, and foresight. Humor and fantastical elements ensure that these philosophical inquiries remain engaging and accessible. The juxtaposition of comedic consequence with ethical tension reinforces the narrative's lessons without becoming didactic. Viewers are invited to engage intellectually, emotionally, and morally, reflecting on their own desires, actions, and responsibilities in both everyday and extraordinary contexts. At the heart of Genie, Make-A-Wish lies the intricate evolution of Ka-young, whose journey from emotional detachment to moral and emotional maturity forms one of the series' most compelling narrative threads. Ka-young begins the story as an intelligent, analytical, and somewhat emotionally reserved individual. Her approach to life is primarily rational, and her initial engagement with Iblis, the magical, centuries-old genie, is marked by curiosity, experimentation, and a subtle detachment. She treats the act of wish fulfillment as a puzzle to be solved rather than a moral or emotional responsibility, reflecting her early stage of emotional development. The series carefully charts Ka-young's transformation, using each encounter with wishes and their consequences as a catalyst for introspection and growth. Early episodes depict her observing the ripple effects of her own and others' wishes with a mixture of fascination and distance. However, repeated exposure to unintended consequences gradually cultivates empathy, self-awareness, and a deeper understanding of relational ethics. For instance, minor disruptions caused by her initial wishes, seemingly trivial inconveniences or humorous mishaps, reveal the complexity of human desires and highlight the moral weight inherent in her decisions. Through these early experiences, the series establishes a narrative foundation that allows viewers to trace Ka-young's journey toward emotional and ethical sophistication. Ka-young's second phase of development is marked by the increasing complexity of her wishes and the moral dilemmas they engender. Unlike her initial wishes, which were exploratory, her subsequent desires begin to reveal latent emotions and subconscious motivations. These wishes often reflect unresolved emotional conflicts, personal regrets, or unacknowledged vulnerabilities. The narrative illustrates that personal growth is inseparable from ethical awareness. As Ka-young learns to anticipate and understand the consequences of her wishes, she also learns to navigate her own emotional landscape. The series emphasizes that emotional maturity and moral responsibility are intertwined, and that ethical reflection is as much about self-understanding as it is about considering the impact on others. A critical aspect of Ka-young's evolution involves her interactions with secondary and minor characters. Relationships with figures such as Choi Min-ji, Lee Mi-ju, and Oh Pan-jeom serve as mirrors and catalysts, providing both challenge and support in her ethical and emotional development. For example, Choi Min-ji's wishes and reactions often illuminate Ka-young's blind spots, while Lee Mi-ju's generational perspective offers insight into the long-term consequences of desire and action. Oh Pan-jeom, as a figure of familial wisdom, reinforces themes of relational ethics, emotional responsibility, and the importance of foresight. Through these interactions, Ka-young learns that personal growth is relational. Understanding oneself requires engagement with others and reflection on the broader impact of one's actions. The role of Iblis in Ka-young's development is equally significant. Initially a detached observer and facilitator, Iblis functions as both mentor and mirror, challenging Ka-young's assumptions and provoking critical reflection. His centuries of experience and sardonic humor provide perspective, yet he does not dictate morality. Instead, he encourages Ka-young to arrive at her own ethical conclusions. This approach underscores the series' emphasis on experiential learning, showing that moral and emotional growth are cultivated through observation, reflection, and engagement rather than imposed externally. Iblis's evolving perception of human morality parallels Ka-young's own growth, creating a dynamic interplay between character development and philosophical inquiry. The series also explores the integration of humor, fantasy, and emotional resonance in Ka-young's evolution. Comedic consequences of wishes and fantastical interventions function as ethical and emotional lessons, allowing Ka-young, and viewers, to reflect on moral principles without didacticism. The juxtaposition of levity and moral gravity ensures that emotional development is experienced organically, rather than being conveyed solely through dialogue or exposition. For instance, Ka-young's initial amusement at wish outcomes gradually transforms into concern, reflection, and empathy, illustrating the gradual cultivation of moral and emotional intelligence. A defining moment in Ka-young's journey occurs in her later, more consequential wishes. These desires require foresight, selflessness, and moral courage, demonstrating that her growth is cumulative rather than instantaneous. The narrative emphasizes the iterative nature of emotional maturity. Each experience, mistake, and reflection contributes to the development of ethical insight and relational empathy. The series portrays Ka-young's ability to anticipate the impact of her actions on others as the culmination of her growth, marking a transition from reactive decision-making to proactive moral reasoning. In addition to narrative and character-focused techniques, the series employs visual and auditory elements to reinforce Ka-young's development. Lighting, framing, and color palettes reflect shifts in her emotional state and ethical awareness, while musical scoring underscores moments of reflection, insight, and moral decision-making. These audiovisual cues allow viewers to experience Ka-young's internal evolution, providing a rich sensory complement to narrative and dialogue. The integration of these elements illustrates the series' commitment to immersive storytelling and the holistic depiction of character growth. Iblis, the centuries-old genie in Genie, Make a Wish, serves not only as a magical agent of wish fulfillment but also as a central figure in the series' ethical, philosophical, and emotional exploration. Unlike typical fantasy genies, Iblis is portrayed with depth, complexity, and moral ambiguity. He embodies both power and wisdom, yet he is not omniscient. His long life allows him to observe human behavior across centuries, giving him insight into desire, folly, and ethical reasoning. This perspective allows the series to examine the intricate interplay between intention, consequence, and morality, using Iblis as both a catalyst for events and a reflective mirror for human characters, particularly Ka-young. From his initial introduction, Iblis is characterized by a blend of sardonic humor, detached observation, and subtle ethical commentary. He delights in human folly, often mocking or teasing characters for their predictable mistakes and emotional naivety. However, beneath this playful exterior lies a nuanced understanding of human complexity. Iblis's humor is not merely comic relief, it serves a philosophical function, highlighting the contrast between human impulsivity and the careful deliberation required for ethical decision-making. Through his interactions with Ka-young, the series presents Iblis as a mentor figure whose role is to provoke reflection rather than dictate moral behavior, emphasizing the importance of experiential learning in ethical growth. Iblis's role as a moral catalyst is most evident in the way he facilitates wish fulfillment. Each wish presents characters with ethical dilemmas and unforeseen consequences, creating opportunities for moral education. Unlike a traditional omnipotent figure, Iblis does not prevent mistakes. Instead, he allows characters to experience outcomes directly, highlighting the intrinsic connection between action and consequence. This approach aligns with philosophical traditions that emphasize moral growth through lived experience, illustrating that wisdom is cultivated through engagement rather than abstract instruction. Iblis's interventions are carefully calibrated to encourage reflection, empathy, and foresight, reinforcing the series' broader exploration of relational ethics. The series also uses Iblis to explore the limitations of knowledge and the unpredictability of moral outcomes. Despite his extensive experience, Iblis is frequently surprised by the complexity of human reactions to wishes and the interwoven consequences that unfold over time. This narrative choice emphasizes that ethical reasoning is inherently contingent and relational. Even the most informed observer cannot fully anticipate the outcomes of actions, particularly when they intersect with human emotions, desires, and social networks. Iblis's occasional misjudgments serve to humanize him, illustrating that moral wisdom involves humility, reflection, and openness to learning, qualities that are essential for both magical and human characters. Iblis also functions as a philosophical mirror for Ka-young, whose ethical and emotional development parallels his own reflective evolution. Initially, Ka-young is emotionally detached and analytically oriented, while Iblis is observant but morally disengaged, seeing human desire primarily as a source of amusement. Through their interactions, both characters undergo transformation. Ka-young develops empathy, foresight, and moral reasoning, while Iblis comes to recognize the depth and potential of human virtue. Their relationship illustrates the series' emphasis on relational ethics. Moral understanding emerges through interaction, dialogue, and the mutual influence of perspectives rather than through unilateral instruction or abstract rules. The narrative further explores Iblis's philosophical dimensions by highlighting his engagement with questions of power, responsibility, and moral authority. As a being capable of granting any wish, he embodies ultimate power, yet the series continually interrogates the ethical responsibilities that accompany such capability. How should Iblis exercise discretion? To what extent is he responsible for the consequences of wishes he grants? By positioning Iblis at the intersection of power and morality, the series encourages viewers to reflect on the ethical dimensions of authority, influence, and intervention in human affairs. His decisions illustrate that ethical power is inseparable from foresight, empathy, and consideration of relational consequences. The series also uses audiovisual storytelling to reinforce Iblis's role as a philosophical and moral catalyst. Lighting, framing, and visual effects emphasize his otherworldly perspective, while musical motifs underscore moments of reflection, insight, or ethical tension. These sensory cues enhance viewers' understanding of Iblis's internal reasoning and his function within the narrative. By integrating visual and auditory storytelling with character development, the series ensures that Iblis's philosophical significance is communicated both narratively and experientially.